Lily.
Hi, Jessie.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for joining me for this little kind of mini conversation on what we're going to be up to.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Awesome, me too. I think we did a little organizing, a little housekeeping before we jumped on. And shall I start with sharing a little bit about me so people
Yes.
know who I am? Okay, awesome. For any of you who don't know me, my name is Jessie Douglas Smith McGraw. I also have two middle names, but here we are. It's a mouthful. I'm a transformative coach and I teach an understanding of the mind and how life works in the same way that Lily does. I had an insight into um, how I work inside when I was in the midst of a really deep depression and having lived in an anxious body for 30 years, and it freed me. I am now in private practice and have been for about 7 years, coming up on 7 years. And I do talks for companies and things like that too. But a big portion of this last 7 years has been working one-on-one with people. And I have a big passion for helping people free themselves in the same way that this understanding has helped free me. So, Lily, I think it'd be great for you to share a little bit about you.
Yes. Well, I am a former school psychologist, and sometimes I say a former person who used to. Yeah, I love how you say live in an anxious body. I lived in an anxious body and a really anxious mind. I used to just think I was an anxious person, and then when I had a panic attack in 2011, it went to this next level. That was like, oh my gosh, I'm more than just an anxious person. I could lose my mind, and it just like, and then I with panic, it really brought it to kind of like 2.0, and I took my mental health even more seriously, and I'd already been taking my health seriously and my mental health. And I, being a school psychologist, I've always loved mental health and the conversations about that, talking to people. I've loved counseling. So I've been doing counseling for 17 years. I've absolutely loved it. Just talking with people and listening and finding out how similar we are and how I could go on and on about that. But what I found when I was struggling, especially with after a panic attacks, everything that I had kind of been taught wasn't working. And oftentimes it just made me it didn't make me worse. I had more thinking about it. And the more I did, um, sometimes the worse I felt. And also because then I got more hopeless. What does this mean? What does this mean that the stuff that sounded really cool, like grounding techniques and cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff that I would be trained in, because all of it was so interesting to me. Meditation and mindfulness, I was trained in that because I thought, well, if I'm meditating and if I'm teaching meditation and mindfulness and then yoga also in schools, because then I was trained in yoga therapy and how to do yoga with kids, in addition to all of the more traditional stuff, I can't be anxious. I can't lose my mind. I can't panic. And then because I didn't really understand where my experience was coming from, I didn't really understand it. I used that more as evidence of, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And how is this happening to me as a psychologist and as a person? And then I came into the three principles conversation. Um, and I realized that I was innocently overcomplicating it. And it just changed my life. And it was a thing that was the deepest and the longest lasting in terms of having relief from anxiety and panic. And once I really like got to the other side, I was like, why doesn't everybody know about this? And I started being a school psychologist, I got into the Spark curriculum actually, which is an evidence-based program when you're in schools or a lot of kind of more different mental health settings. They were like evidence-based, which is super cool that there is something in the three principles community. There's, that's evidence-based. Not that there needs to be evidence, but I was sharing it with kids, and a lot of sometimes even just the talk with seniors that I'd give was a lot of it was based on Jack Pransky's book, Somebody Should Have Told Us. And I kept thinking, I want all the other adults who feel anxious to know this. And I thought it needed to be in person because everything I did, it was in person. And that kind of felt daunting. I was the lead school psychologist at the time, and a mom. Then the pandemic started, and I was like, so many people who were online. And so I just was like, I'm going to do a group. I'm just going to do a virtual group. And here we are, and I transitioned. I absolutely loved it. I've also absolutely loved working from home. I loved being a school psychologist. I was that, in that field for 13 years. And I've loved sharing the simplicity of how we work with human beings all over the world. And I started sharing on social media, and people were really resonating with it. And and it's really interesting to find people that feel like they're my twin all over the world, from, Los Angeles, California to London to Lisbon to, and it's like to Qatar to, like, and it's all we're in the best way. I found how not special we are, in how we can sometimes innocently misuse our thinking and really get scared. So that's a little bit about me. And you want to tell us why we're here, why we're having this conversation, and what we're going to chat about too.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you're saying about with your background and being in psychology and how you were innocently making much more of it that, my goodness, I come from a family of therapists and went to school for psychology, and it just so deeply resonates with me too. And I'm sure with so many people that are listening right now or watching, because, we try so hard. We try so hard to feel better. And I had that exact same experience of, why didn't we know this sooner? Why didn't I know this sooner? Why was I going into my thinking and making it worse when anyway, I could go on and on also. So anyway, just a really quick, I thought it would be fun to share that a really quick side note as to why I reached out to you and why I wanted to put this retreat together with you. Um, at the end of last year, I just had an insight. I was on my way to London in March to visit friends, and I had this fresh idea occur to me that I wanted to work while I was there. And a colleague of ours, his name popped into my mind, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to explore this and see if he would be open to doing something together while I'm there. And as history shows, because March is behind us and I've already done it, I had an incredible experience with him. But before that, once I got the ball rolling with Win Morgan, who I did the London retreat with, once I got the ball rolling with that and started having conversations with people in Los Angeles, clients and different, friends and things, people were saying, why aren't you doing one here? And when are you going to do one here? So then that got me thinking, because I really loved the idea of collaborating and being able to play with somebody in that environment, in that experience. So Lily's name came to mind, and similar to Win, I knew of her, and I didn't know her personally. And so just like with Win, I reached out and said, would you be willing to explore this idea? And she was just like Win, extremely responsive, and said, heck yes, let's get lunch. And all of that being said, she and I clicked immediately. And if you can't tell already, and we clicked immediately, got really excited about the idea of what we could explore together and how we could help people in Los Angeles or anybody coming into Los Angeles for a retreat. And all of that was heightened to the best feeling after my experience of doing the London retreat with Win Morgan, because the impact that we had. And again, like Lily said, all of us in this field, all of us practitioners in this field of the three principles understanding, we are sharing what is universally true for all human beings. And so we get to find our cohorts and have kind of these beautiful experiences in sharing this understanding. And anyway, all of that being said, the impact on the attendees of the retreat in London was so unbelievable that I knew with all certainty that what Lily and I were going to be up to was going to make a huge, huge impact on the folks that were going to attend our retreat. So there's the excitement of us doing something new together, but at the same time, I'm just thrilled that I got to have my own evidence-based experience of running a retreat in March and having and seeing the impact and the continued impact, because I still have attendees reaching out to me months later now, saying how it has changed their life to understand themselves in this way. So I'm thrilled. So, we want to share really quickly. We'll be as concise as possible because we'll leave all the more, not all of it, but more juicy stuff for the actual retreat. But Lily and I decided that we would love to ask each other this question, and I'm going to pose it to Lily first, which is, Lily, what do you wish that you knew earlier for an anxiety-free life?
Yes. I wish that I knew that my experience of anxiety in all the ways that it showed up didn't reflect my innate well-being. I wish I knew about innate mental health. I wish I knew that every single person was sitting in the middle of mental health. I was really scared about how mental health was sometimes portrayed in the media and even discussed in my family of, oh, we've got a history of mental illness. Um, for me, I had an experience of anxiety, but when I had a panic attack, for me, it really almost felt like I was almost losing my mind. And so a lot of it felt like the panic was a start, but then I could lose my mind. So I had this big fear about like a more serious mental health issue, kind of wanting to be like, please, it's just anxiety. It's not here. This separation, which I actually think was really unhelpful. And what I wish I knew, like right now, I think I am so solid in understanding the innate well-being, innate mental health of all human beings. Like I'm not special. And so anybody that's watching, as Jesse and I don't have anything that you don't have. So I wish I knew that how serious and how scary it felt wasn't a reflection of how sane I was, how mentally strong I was, this calm underneath the storm, that it was always there, and how big and scary and long and it was didn't mean that I had to work really hard, because I think sometimes that's what started to trip me up. It's like, oh, I gotta, I would see, say, for example, my ex-husband. Well, he can do X, Y, and Z, but I'm like mentally ill. So like I really got to take my nighttime routine seriously and my morning routine. And um he he has innate health. I have innate health. You have innate health. Like I didn't know that. I didn't know that left to my own devices, my mind would return to balance. I would return to balance. That's how all human beings are designed. I'm no different. Anybody that people that are watching, you're no different. Um, I really thought I was different. I thought I was broken. And I thought the fact that I kept feeling almost worse and worse, and the harder I tried, sometimes the worse I felt, I was like, "Ee, this maybe is even more than anxiety." And it didn't mean any of that. I didn't know um, that I just kept scaring myself more and more and living in a feeling of chronic stress, but that didn't reflect that I could go back and I could left to my own devices, all of like, oh, my mind is a self-correcting system. I didn't know that. Um, and so I really wish I knew that there was less for me to do and that what I saw, oh my gosh, wait, the less I did, the better I felt, which I know sounds weird, and we will talk more about that, but really then thought flows and I would return to balance. And return to balance to me means my really jumbled thought. Where do I have a like this? I love the snow globe analogy. I could feel really shaken up, but I'd be like, okay, let me do my tapping. Let me do this. And okay, I'm going to write everything out. And where are my cognitive distortions? And I didn't know why. Oh my God. Okay. Now I really got to make sure I get enough sleep and let me do this. And in the morning, and I didn't know that I could have felt more easy just watching TV or reading a book, that, you know, some of the nature is that left alone, the mind settles, left alone, the things settle. And, um, and so I really wish I knew that, and that I'm special, everyone's watching is special, but our experience with anxiety, it's not like, cause when I was in it, it was like, nobody can, which is I hear again and again. So I know people might be listening. Well, Jesse and Lily probably didn't have it as bad as me. Like I would see other people and I'm like, well, they might have innate health, or not that nobody talked about innate health, but if they were, until they did, but somebody listening, it's so normal to be like, okay, that works for them, but not me, because my experience is probably worse. I'm worse. And I wish that someone's like, nope, sorry to break it to you. You are not special. You are not unique. Your experience is not the worst. You're not the exception to the rule of that feeling good and mental well-being is everyone's birthright, and it's actually easier than we think. And the simplicity in the conversations that I think we have was part of the magic, because for my mind that can tend to obsess and overthink and really want to intellectualize, something being simple, oh wait, there's less for me to do. I don't have to think my way there. And in fact, I can't, was exactly, sounds so cheesy, but it's like what came to me was like what the doctor ordered. Like it was so like, because I just would get in there and become really obsessive with meditation or with yoga or with how to eat or with writing my cognitive distortions, stuff that maybe people could do in a light way. I got really serious. So I really benefited from the simplicity of this understanding and the universalness. It's like, this is true for everybody.
Yeah.
And so, Jessie, what do you wish you knew earlier about having an anxiety-free life?
Well, it's interesting. This actually popped up in my head as you were talking, where, you know, even the idea around anxiety free, similar to you, I probably would have heard that back in the day of me living in an anxious body. And I would have had the thought of, oh, that's a nice idea, but not for me, you know, because I thought that I was going to have to manage my anxiety for the rest of my life. Because kind of what's similar, but very different to Lily, Lily's belief systems around what, about her brokenness or about what was going to be possible for her is kind of what was the creator for her in a very general way. Obviously, there was so much more involved, but in her thinking. But for me, my anxiety looked like it was coming from my circumstances. So as opposed to it kind of, we all have our different, kind of unique little thoughts around where our anxiety is coming from. And for me personally, it looked to me like my anxiety was coming as a response to life around me. So the environments I was in, my circumstances I was in, the people I was with. So, oddly enough, for whatever reason, and, we all have our different reasons or different belief systems that show up. For whatever reason, the belief system of I'm broken missed me. But my belief system more was around, I feel so uncomfortable inside. And I believed that that feeling was telling me something about what was going on around me. So for me, my belief system led me to thinking, I am going to have to manage this forever, because there is no way that I'm going to go move to a mountaintop in Montana where I have no triggers, or life, because I'm sure I'd even find him there. If, from that perspective I was in. But I knew that I didn't have any desire to again go live a lonesome life. But I also thought to myself, well, hell, life is going to forever be challenging. I'm going to forever have to kind of be in different environments that aren't my favorite. So therefore, I'm going to have to manage this sickening anxiety. And what was happening for me in the process of that is that I was making my life smaller, because I was making up my mind that different, I was a professional dancer for quite a long time. And oh, it was quite the challenge to navigate that career with the intense anxiety that I had, because I would make up my mind that different dance studios brought me anxiety, or different choreographers brought me anxiety, or different dancers that I would be competing against. So as you can imagine, for me to want to have any semblance of a career, and thank God I hung in there long enough to build my relationships, because the relationships is what ended up getting me more of my jobs. But as you can imagine, it made it extremely challenging to navigate that career, let alone the rest of my life. But just to use that as a reference point, because auditions would be held in the same studios. So, there aren't a million different studios in LA. So if I had previously deemed a studio the reason for my suffering, then it was just strickening for me physically to make myself get there first and foremost. Um, I had a lot of coping mechanisms that I navigated and managed in order to try to help myself. Um, Something that I've heard Lily say before that I love so much is that you can never get enough of what you don't need. And I had a million coping mechanisms and I had a million different things to try to help myself. But the anxiety and the stress inside of me would be so intense that I would oftentimes blank out during my audition. Just completely forget everything that I was up to. I would just go blank and feel like I was in the middle of space while it was my turn. And um, so it was so challenging for me to navigate life because again, I thought that my condition was a response, was almost like a premonition, my body letting me know that things out here were dangerous or that they weren't good for me. And so yeah, so my belief system that drove my anxiety was again, um, you are going to have to manage anxiety for the rest of your life because your circumstance, life is life. Life will always be challenging and chaotic, and your body is always telling you that. And so, how are you going to navigate feeling differently? And again, if I had known that my anxiety was coming from my imagination around all of it, that my anxiety was not coming from my environment or my circumstances or the people in my life, but my anxiety was my body letting me know that I was caught up in my thinking about those things. I had so much thinking about where I was going, about the people I was with, about the circumstances. I had so much thinking about those things. And then what would happen is that my imagination would flare and fly off. We are all incredibly creative people. Even if you don't consider yourself a creative person, I'm sure you've used your imagination at least once today about the future. And the thing is listen, what's so helpful about this understanding is that it's not about stopping your imagination, stopping your thinking. It's not about getting kind of scared of, oh, I can't use my imagination. That's what creates my anxiety. No, no, no. What's so what's so helpful is that once you start to understand the fact that our imagination creates this feeling, the fact that our mind is constantly in imagination, telling stories in story, the more we start to understand how it works, that in and of itself kind of stops anxiety in its tracks. I can't tell you how many times today already, and it's only the early afternoon, how many times today already I have been in my imagination about the future and about different things that I'm up to in my work. But because I know that, again, I'm onto myself. I can kind of see, my body lets me know, oh, I'm caught up in the snow globe. My snow globe is really busy. And, that in and of itself is so helpful because then again, I recognize, oh, okay, we're not sure. We don't even know any of that yet. Come back and get back engaged in my life. And that in and of itself just brings you back to the present moment. And I'm able to say with this with so much ease because, like Lily's saying, it's universally true about all of us. The more that you see about this, and can you pick it up in a weekend? 100%. Everybody that I had in that London retreat, I think we had two people that had done a little bit of looking into this understanding and were mentees of Win, my colleague who co-hosted it with me. Everybody else was new to this. And everybody, after 2 days, was impacted and absolutely saw something about themselves and about how we all work that has allowed them to let themselves off the hook and not take their emotional experience so seriously and be able to ride the waves of it without adding any judgment or thinking that there's something wrong with them. It's like, oh, I'm caught up in a wave, let the wave pass and see what comes after. So that's kind of what's coming to mind for me to share. And I think now I think it'd be great for us to share a little bit. a little bit about what we're going to be up to for that weekend. I know that we could probably talk, ad nauseum about this, and people will still feel when they approach day one, what are we going to be up to? But I think we can do our best. And Lily, you kind of you lead us off with that. So you tell us what you think we're going to be up to for those 2 days.
Okay, great. Well, so first of all, it is July 13th and 14th, and it is going to be a small, intimate setting in Santa Monica, California, which is really great. So whether you're in Los Angeles or you want to make a summer vacation out of it. And so for these 2 days, they're Saturday and Sunday, we are going to get together and have a conversation and about what we've kind of been starting to talk about now about, and it might, we don't have it scripted out, and that's part of some of the beauty, because I know we want it to be a conversation in that we want to talk with you. We want to hear what your experience with stress and with anxiety has been. What questions do you have? What do you know, if we could wave a magic wand and anxiety could go poof, what would your life be like? And then I think I imagine we will share stories about how we saw things differently. And there's what we invite you to, well, we're inviting you, and then when you come, there's no pressure. You get to just show up and listen. And just like as if you were coming to maybe even hear some of your favorite authors read their fiction books out loud, you're just listening. Or if you were going to go to a concert, you don't have to come and bring a notebook or like, oh, we're not going to go into your past. There's not going to be, you can come and literally never share and you can just listen. There is no pressure. If you are someone that's like, I don't want to be I just want to listen. Great. So we want this to feel a comfortable experience for you. Um, and there's no wrong way to participate. And so just if you're in a good feeling, you're going to get it. I remember Judy Sedgman talking about when she first heard Sid. Sid Banks is the founder of the Three Principles, which is the understanding that we're kind of guided from. And I remember when she was talking and she said, Sid has a Scottish accent and he kind of talks quietly. So she couldn't even hear that much of what he was saying. And so she just was like, whatever, I'm not even going to try to get it. So she listened and understood what she could. And she was just in a feeling. And afterwards, she had this insight about, this was when she ran like medical practices and they had this really, really difficult client. And it was and then it was this clarity, got to get rid of him. And it was like so clear. And she didn't go in to hear Sid talk to say, I want to get clarity on my business. And she wasn't like, I'm writing down every word Sid's saying. When you have insights, they change you from the inside out. And I imagine that we might share some of the insights that we've had along the way. And then you might see, oh, and sometimes it's like, whoa. And sometimes it's like, oh, interesting. I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And part of the magic is that we'll get together and everybody that shows up is going to be meant to be there, and the questions that you're asking, and then you're going to be, oh, you might see this. And so we're just going to be in a conversation. So on Saturday, we'll get together. We'll probably have 2 breaks Saturday, or maybe 3 breaks, like a little tea break. We'll break for lunch. We'll be in Santa Monica. If you're familiar with LA, you might know where to go, but we already know some yummy restaurants that are right in walking distance. And you'll go for lunch and then we'll come back and we'll talk for a little bit. And on Saturday, we do end at 5. And so you'll get to go out and have a dinner or whatever you want to do on your Saturday night. And we'll do the same thing again on Sunday. And Sunday, we just are a little out earlier at 4:30 in case you have a Sunday dinner or a flight to catch home or whatever that looks like. And I want to pass it over to you. And I want to say one thing, because I know our title is Anxiety-Free Life. And then some people might be like, maybe that's not possible for me, but I know you touched on that. But I also think we're not saying you need to walk away from this weekend experiencing zero anxiety. I think it's this paradox, because I used to be searching, tell me what to do so I'll never feel anxious. And now, just sometimes I might feel anxious, but it's like, it's not a big deal. I don't do anything. I don't identify as an anxious person. So I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, is this possible? Also, is an anxiety a normal human emotion? Yeah, it is. And so it's sort of a fun title in that I think that's what we both would have wanted to hear. And actually, to me, being a human at peace with living life isn't exclusive to sometimes experiencing anxiety or a low mood or irritation. It's just, oh, I'm just like a normal human being in the best way possible. And so we really welcome everything that you want to bring. I mean, I've been running groups for 17 years. I've absolutely loved it. I love groups. I'm so excited to do something in person because everybody that's listening and everybody who shows up, it just is so magical hearing what's on your mind. And the coolest thing also about groups is somebody outside of Jessie and I is probably going to share something and you're going to be like, oh, because it's like we are we aren't wiser or more spiritual than anybody. Like all of you are so insightful and um so needed and so wanted. Like I have a virtual community and I just absolutely love everybody. And then I see their comments and I'm like, oh my God, they said it so much better than me. And I could go on and on, but that's what I really envision is us super cool humans getting together and chatting about um enjoying our beautiful lives. Cause I think when everybody that I've worked with, what they want is to enjoy their life. They want more freedom, they want more ease, and that's what it's kind of going to be all about. And whatever that looks like to you. And that might look like I'm moving to Montana because I got to get out of LA. Great. Like there's no shoulds, there's no rights or wrongs. You can come if you are on medication, if you are anti-medication. We are pro you. You are come if you are in therapy, against therapy, if you are religious, if you are not religious. Um, this is for everybody, to me, wanting to enjoy your beautiful life. And
Gorgeous.
can I
Yes.
over to you? What do you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add, honestly. I think it was beautifully said, exactly like, and I really appreciate what you're saying too. The difference between, kind of us, anybody may be interpreting this that we're selling something that's like a big idea of an anxiety-free life. It's really important to have that pointed out too, recognizing that anxiety, stress, just like joy, excitement, just like sadness and grief, just like frustration and fear, just the more that we start to understand how we work inside, it takes the charge out of all of it. We aren't afraid of our emotions anymore. So it's the difference between having a momentary experience of stress and anxiety versus living in a chronic state of anxiety and stress. And that is freedom to me. So yeah, I don't have much more to add on. The only thing I will say is the reason why I think it was really important to Lily and I to have it be 2 days versus one day is that overnight of you stepping away, living your life, having a nice dinner, doing whatever makes sense to you after we're together and sleeping on it and then coming back together the next day. Lily and I have experienced this before being the attendees of different retreats, but also when I saw the shifts happen in people in London as well, me being the host of the retreat. It is amazing what happens when we sleep on something. It's like the ideas that we've started to hear, it embeds the learning without having to like work at it, because that's our invitation. So again, it is a beautiful opportunity for us to come together, experience a relaxed mind in a room of people who don't often get to experience that. And when we're all together experiencing it together, it is blissful. And I can guarantee you, honestly guarantee you, that you will experience that pretty quickly on day one. And then being able to settle into that together for 2 days is just beautiful and will lead to insights for you. Guaranteed, whether they're little popcorn ones or big, huge ones that, feel like there's a crack in the universe, but it happens for everybody. You are not unique in the way that, like Lily was saying, that you are too challenged or too tied up or too gripped to where you won't be able to experience something like that. And we can guarantee you with all certainty from our personal experience, let alone what we've seen in our clients, our communities, and our other, different things we're up to, that you will experience shifts. So I think that was a good once over. What do you think, Lily? Does that feel
I,
good?
I think it feels so good. And so now we just want to invite you all, come and hang out with us July
Yeah,
13th and 14th in a
yeah,
small setting in
yeah.
Santa Monica, California. And
Yes.
let us know if you have any questions.
Yes. Let us know if you have any questions. Oh, were you going to talk pricing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so till the end of June, we are offering the retreat for $445. So that is a $50 discount from the full price. And you can also get a 30-minute phone call with either Lily or I. That's kind of a little bonus. We thought that would be fun. So again, that's for the entire month of June. If you sign up for the retreat, you will receive a 30-minute phone call with Lily or I and $50 off. So it will be $445. And then from July 1st to the retreat day, the cost goes up to $495. And we won't be doing the phone calls at that point just because we'll be overloaded with the phone calls that we're doing for the people who signed up early. So be one of those people, because how wonderful to get a $50 discount, an opportunity for us to connect and get to know you a little bit on a personal level, before we all come together and have such a wonderful, beautiful experience together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Well, we hope to see you.
Hope to see you July 13th and 14th in Santa Monica.
Yes. Okay. Have a wonderful rest of your day, Lily.
Thank you, you too, Jessie.
Bye.
Bye.